Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and Junior English, and we are now ready to introduce you to the Junior MyPerspectives volume, page 10, 11, and following. I just want to start on page 10 with the essential question for a moment. What is the meaning of freedom? Notice, as you read these selections, work with your whole class to explore the meaning of freedom from text to topic. Notice, keep reading with me. For Thomas Jefferson and the other founders, freedom meant breaking away from Great Britain and establishing a nation based on democratic principles and individual liberties. Convincing the colonial majority of that idea would take persuasive words and images. For James Madison and Benjamin Franklin, after independence, freedom needed to be codified in a constitution. I would circle that word. Again, not an easy task. Issues relating to independence gripped Americans in the mid-18th century. As you read, consider what the selections show about the meaning of American freedom during the country's formative years and how they continue to shape our ideas about freedom today. And again, there's some learning strategies that I want you to pay attention to at the bottom of page 10. You have the titles there on page 11 that you can just glance over. Let's turn now to page 12. 13 and 14, and this is the historical perspectives section. Focus period, notice, is write it or circle it 1750 to 1800. Now we're going to be given some quotes here. The first one from Samuel Adams, and then the second one from George Washington, and then the third one we'll be reading the Aquino narrative here in a little bit. Let's enjoy now just some reading. Notice concentrating as well on the headings that we're working with. History of the period. The first one, founded on freedom. The quest for freedom drove the establishment of the colonies. The Pilgrims and Puritans settled Massachusetts so they could practice their religion freely. The Quakers who settled Pennsylvania and the Catholics who settled Maryland also brought their religious convictions with them as they fled from England's restrictions. Second heading, an American society. By the mid-18th century, the 13 disparate colonies had created a new society. Each colony was fiercely independent, but together they viewed themselves as different from societies across the Atlantic. American society generally valued equality and opportunity. It was much more homogeneous than what was commonplace in Europe, without either nobility or a class of paupers who had no chance of bettering their lives. Notice in parenthetics an important observation. Enslaved African Americans were the notable exception. Indentured servants also had limits on their freedom, in parenthetic. Furthermore, most of the colonial governments had two house legislatures elected by voters. The colonial governments may not have been fully democratic by modern standards, but colonists had and expected far more rights and freedoms than their counterparts in England did. Tightening controls, the next heading. By the mid-1700s, most Americans took pride in being in charge of their colonial governments, so the demands that Great Britain began to make after winning the French and Indian War, known in Britain as the 7 Years' War, led inevitably to trouble. Colonialists who were eager to move west were stymied by the proclamation of 1763, which forbade settlement beyond the Appalachian Mountains. Furthermore, the taxes that Britain imposed to pay the cost of securing victory grew more and more onerous to the colonists. Onerous, of course, to dislike. Quickly, no taxation without representation became a colonial rallying cry. In response, England tightened its grip. In 1774, Parliament cracked down on American freedoms even more with laws that the colonialists called the Intolerable Acts. Then, in April of 1775, the conflict turned from words and laws to bullets and deaths when the first shots were fired at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts, the hotbed of rebellion. By the way, pay attention on page 13 to that chart just above the causes and effects of the American Revolution. Declaring independence is the next heading. 6 months before patriots and redcoats clashed in Massachusetts, colonial delegates had gathered to consider their complaints at the First Continental Congress. A few weeks after the events at Lexington and Concord, the Second Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia. By June, the colonies were on the road to a real break from Britain. I'm on to page 14. When the delegates officially declared the colonies' independence, they made freedom a central factor in their rationale. It is self-evident, they stated, that all people have unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In concluding, they pronounce the colonies to be free and independent states. Breaking the bonds, the next heading. The new United States battled for independence for the next 7 years. The British had a clear goal: to keep the rebellious colonies within the British Empire. The Americans were more divided, however. Although probably no more than 20% of the American people were loyal to Great Britain, many others were uncertain about this radical venture of independence. Undeterred, the Patriots fought on. The colonies had a population of about 2.5 million and no standing military forces. By contrast, Great Britain boasted a population of about 7.5 million, as well as the world's most powerful army and navy. However, the colonists were fighting on home territory, whereas the British were 3,000 miles away from home and lacked easy access to supplies. Then, in 1778, France entered the war on the side of the Americans. It was French aid that enabled the Americans to win the decisive battle at Yorktown. Tradition says that as the British surrendered, their band played "The World Turned Upside Down," a fitting tune for what had happened. The new nation that had demanded and won its independence would be unique in the world of its day, a self-governing democracy. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris officially brought the American Revolution to an end. Having defining freedoms is the next heading. Having fought for freedom, the new nation had to structure a government that would preserve it. The Articles of Confederation, approved in 1777 and formally ratified 1781, confirmed the union of the 13 states as one nation. However, the agreement largely left each state free to function on its own, an arrangement that created an often dysfunctional union. Correcting the problems led to a complete recreation of the governmental structure and triggered the writing of the Constitution of the United States. Not satisfied with the guarantees of freedom embedded in the Constitution, however, many leaders urged the creation of what became the Bill of Rights. These first 10 amendments to the Constitution focus on guarantees of individual liberties, including freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the right to legal counsel and trial by jury. These rights did not extend to all Americans, however. For all of the focus on freedom and individual rights in the founding of the United States, enslaved African Americans, about 20% of the population, were left out of this discussion. In addition, even though property requirements were abolished for male voters in the new nation, 125 years would pass before suffrage was extended to American women. A motivating force. Freedom has been a defining goal throughout American history. The literature in this unit explores how freedom has shaped the United States and how authors of both the past and present have applied visions of freedom to an ever-changing world. Do notice at the bottom of these pages this timeline, and I want you to study that as well, along with the images that are provided there. Page 15 will finish this study with literature selections of this time period and connections as well across time. We now will turn to the actual study of the Unit Number 1 texts. Thank you.